Hey guys, what's up? So today is September 17th, 2015, and today is officially my 9 months on T. So I wanted to make a quick video about trans updates because I actually have a couple, and then also just do a quick chest update at the end. So if you want to skip the backstory and actually just get to something like what I'm talking about, like whatever, you might want to skip the first couple minutes of this. But to give you the backstory on what's going on, I guess right now for me, transition-wise, kind of have to understand that when I moved here, I moved from Midwest America, which is a very conservative part of the country. I didn't exactly get the best care while I was there, and I've tried to be positive as much as possible, but I also think it's important to talk about, when things do go wrong, because being trans, you don't always get the greatest side of the medical community, and that's unfortunate, and something that needs to change, and it's not going to change if we don't talk about it. So I did want to briefly just mention that, and also how that ties into where I'm at now, because it is very relevant. And kind of just maybe give you an idea of what to look for, because if you haven't started T, or you're, or hormones of any sort, if you're trans, male, female, male, it doesn't really matter. I think what you'd look for at a doctor would be very similar. Basically, what happened was I found a doctor that was close to me that did that was an endocrinologist, and I had heard that she'd worked with trans people, but there really is no trans resources. There are no trans resources really where I'm from. There's not like a center for trans people. There's no groups. There's no real information. I think there are in the capital, but that for me was about an hour and a half, and that was a little bit far to drive because I was an undergrad and then I was working, and it was just that's a little bit far to drive for medical care for me, and it wasn't something that I really honestly even became aware of until I was already on T to begin with, so it wasn't really an option when I was starting. But so I went to this doctor, and I had horrible experiences with the staff, just to be entirely blunt. No, it was not the worst thing that could have happened. I have heard worse stories, but this behavior was still unacceptable. The first day, to give examples, the first day I walked in to start testosterone, so pre-T, I was gendered correctly, so they said, come up to the counter, sir, we'll help you next. Got my file, knew exactly what I was there for, and intentionally misgendered me for the 7 months that I was there. When I got my letter to change over my gender marker, it was written with the wrong gender in there. And I don't know who wrote the letter, but whatever. So when it got written and it was wrong, which, I understand that sometimes things can get a little confusing, but that's your job, so do it right. And on top of that, the worst part was when I called them, they pretty much blamed me and acted like it was my fault and made me do all of the work to get it fixed. And they really didn't even fix it. Instead of retyping the letter, they literally took whiteout and whited out FE instead of female, it said male, so they put whiteout on it, and then rescanned it and re-signed it because they were too lazy to retype it. So anyway, that was a nightmare. But it also kind of manifested in the way that I was being cared for. Which, as bad as this sounds, I could have put up with intolerant people because, frankly, I'm from the Midwest. I've had really bad experiences there. When I came out as gay when I was 17, it was a nightmare. And so I've dealt with bigots my whole life, and that's the unfortunate fact of it. So it doesn't faze me as much as it probably should. But the fact that it kind of spilled over into the quality of care I feel like I received really bothers me. To the point where, there were a lot of things that were not explained to me. There were a lot of things that I felt like I had to educate my doctor on. And those are big red flags. If you have to tell your doctor, hey, this is what, being trans is, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you have to explain shit that's, like, elementary to the transition process, you probably shouldn't be there. And I know that sometimes your options are limited. But honestly, I was really desperate to get on T, and had I been a little bit more laid back, and I know that that's a really hard thing to hear, but if I kind of stepped back a little bit, it would have been worth it to wait even another month or two to find a doctor that would have adequately performed the care that I needed. The main way, and there were several ways, but the main way that really manifested itself was in the fact that my T levels are, and always have been, on the rock bottom end of normal. Normal range for males is, I believe, 250 to 1200. At least that's what I've been told. And my range has consistently been between 250 and 300. I'm a 21-year-old guy. That's not generally normal, and it can be. I mean, if you feel fine, ultimately it's supposed to go off of how you feel. So if I would have felt okay on that, it would have been fine to stay there, but I didn't, and I made that known, and nothing changed. So, I felt very lethargic. I felt very disconnected. Is probably the only way that I can put it. Emotionally, I had a really hard time engaging with my life. There were a lot of things that really didn't feel right. And it became more and more apparent the farther I went. Because the first few months I was so excited to be on TV, blah, 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 things are changing, yay. Around month 4 or 5, when things started to, not plateau, but when things, the excitement of, oh, my voice is cracking, oh, I'm gaining more muscle, oh, the big first heavy-hitting changes were gone, it was like, this still doesn't feel right. And I felt like that wasn't really listened to, personally. And so, anyways, fast forward now to me being here in the Denver metro area. There's a lot more resources, absolutely wonderful doctors. I got an appointment with one and saw him on Tuesday, and it was honestly night and day. His office was wonderful. They were, he went out of his way to, make sure he knew what my legal name and preferred name was, and, and for me it's the same thing, so it doesn't really matter at this point, but, also like what sex I was assigned at birth, but what gender I identified with, what my pronoun preferences were, what my preferences were on language concerning my body, things like that. And it was really a wonderful atmosphere. And he got all of that straight before we even started talking about anything medical. And that was a really great experience for me, honestly. He was also fairly low cost, which was good because I was worried about that. But the thing that really that I really want to talk about in this video was the changes I've seen since I've seen him, because he he literally doubled my dose of tea since he was like, yeah, your T levels probably shouldn't be around there if you're not feeling good about that. So let's go ahead and double that, because you've been on T for 9 months. That's long enough to know whether or not that's a good dose for you. So we doubled it. So I did my shot right after that appointment, because instead of doubling the dose and keeping the same frequency, because I was on 2 weeks, now I'm going to do weekly, so I'm going to do the same amount I used to be doing, but do it weekly, so it's essentially doubling what I was doing. But I just kind of wanted to talk real briefly about what that's kind of been doing to me for the last 3 days, because I didn't really expect, I didn't expect things to change as much as they have, and I'm really noticing a big difference already. And some of it's good, some of it's not. Honestly, I feel like I'm restarting tea, like, completely, because when I started, I slept for like probably 10, 11 hours a night for the first few weeks, because I just couldn't function with anything less than that. And so I came home yesterday, and I'm in law school, so this is not a good thing to do. I freaked out when I woke up. Came home and slept for 4 hours after class, and like it was supposed to be a half-hour nap, 45 minutes tops, and I was out for 4 hours. Woke up, the sun was gone, it was great. So that's clearly coming back. I'm already exhausted, and I didn't take a nap today, and it's only 7:45 here, and I'm like, can I go to bed? But I still have 20 pages of reading to do, so no, I can't go to bed. It's great. So that, I'm sweating a crap ton. Yeah, that's the official scientific term, crap ton. Look it up. I can't stop sweating. It's how it was when I first started, and eventually it kind of went down to a manageable level. But I'm sweating you can see it like shining off my face, and all I'm doing is standing here talking to a camera, and I'm not particularly camera shy, so this is not normal for me. I'm like glistening, like glowing. We'll call it a glow. It's glowing, right? So I'm sleepy and I am sweating like crazy. But the goods, those are the bad ones. The good ones are I do feel already more in touch when I am awake. Life feels more like I'm in it instead of watching it, which is a really, really great difference. Because I felt like that sometimes, but generally it was the closer to my shot it was, the more I'd feel like that, and then I'd trickle off and not feel so great. So it's really wonderful to kind of feel already just that like boost of awesome, because, I without taking my shot on Tuesday, I would now be on the very end of my cycle, and I'd probably be a little bit out of it. And it's not necessarily noticeable to other people, because I do a fairly decent job of hiding it, but for me, like, I can tell. my lack or my ability to handle social interaction goes down drastically as well. And so I'm kind of hoping that that's another change because I've gotten more introverted as I've gotten older, and that's okay. But it's more of a like I can't do this anymore. So I'm kind of hoping that that changes too. So yeah, nothing major, but I feel like all of the things that I had when I started T are back again at about the same full force. Again, it's been like 3 days, so maybe that won't persist, but I did want to talk about that briefly because I do think it's important to note. I guess if you double your dose, it'll mess with you a little bit. But yeah, hopefully things will even out with that soon, and we'll see some good progress on that. And I wanted to do just a quick... Ooh, I'm so sweaty, it's disgusting. Forgive the belly, I ate dinner just right before I made this, which is great. So yeah, this is my chest. Oh great, I'm killing the light. This is my chest, almost 4 months post-op. You can see all sides there. Yeah, it's super exciting. I'm super happy with it. Everything's kind of evening out a little bit more. I still have a little bit of like extra tissue here that I'd kind of like to not be there, but it's really not that big of a deal. I'm definitely happy with the way that's coming in because my shirts are kind of hanging off my chest up here, which is a really cool feeling. It looks a lot better, I think. But yeah, so there's a side, so it's nice and flat. Except for a nice beer belly now. Just kidding. But yeah, so that's my chest 4 months post-op with Dr. Medali. I know it can take the first year is where you see the most like everything evening out. So you generally give it a year or two before the results are final. But so far I'm happy at 4 months. Absolutely no complaints. Don't really plan on getting a revision, so everything's good on that front. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I got for you. That's my 9 months update. I will try and we'll see how this new dose goes, and kind of I'll let that determine whether I feel the need to make a new video here soon. But yeah, until then, take care, peace out, stay safe, make wise choices.